Question 1. The most significant aspect of ensuring the integrity of digital records during migration is best illustrated in which of the following practices: A. Using proprietary software to alter metadata for optimization. B. Allowing minimal user access during the migration to reduce system load. C. Implementing cryptographic hash verification before and after migration. D. Converting all files to PDF for compatibility with modern systems. Answer. Correct answer, C. Implementing cryptographic hash verification before and after migration. Explanation. According to ISO 13008, 2021 Clause 7.4.4, verifying data integrity through checksum or cryptographic hash techniques before and after migration is a foundational requirement for assuring the authenticity and integrity of digital records. Converting to PDF may alter the format and result in information loss, which, by the principle of maintaining the authenticity, reliability, integrity, and usability of records, proprietary software that alters metadata contradicts Clause 6.2.3 on preserving metadata. Limiting user access is a performance strategy but doesn't address record authenticity. Hash-based validation, however, is a direct measure for quality assurance and record trustworthiness. Question 2. In light of recent developments, what should Examiner, an information governance officer, prioritize when planning the migration of judicial digital records from a legacy court database to a cloud-based archival system in a cross-border legal environment? A. Acquiring the fastest available migration software tools. B. Encrypting the data for internal access only. C. Evaluating legal and regulatory constraints governing cross-jurisdictional data transfer. D. Reducing file sizes to accommodate limited bandwidth. Answer. Correct answer. C. Evaluating legal and regulatory constraints governing cross-jurisdictional data transfer. Explanation. Clause 5.4 of ISO 13008. 2021 mandates that all migration strategies must be framed within a clear understanding of legal and regulatory obligations. When digital records involve sensitive judicial data, especially across jurisdictions, international data privacy laws, the GDPR, local data residency laws must be considered. Speed or encryption may help technically, but they do not ensure legal compliance, which is paramount in such cases. Compressing data may reduce quality and compromise authenticity, violating Clause 6.2. Question 3. According to recent studies, which factor most significantly contributes to the failure of digital records conversion projects? A. Use of open source conversion tools without a service agreement. B. Inadequate stakeholder identification and involvement. C. Inclusion of both structured and unstructured data in the same pipeline. D. Over-documentation of legacy formats and metadata. Answer. Correct answer. B. Inadequate stakeholder identification and involvement. Explanation. ISO 13008, 2021 Section 5.3 emphasizes the importance of identifying and involving all relevant stakeholders, including record creators, archivists, legal counsel, and IT personnel. Projects often fail when stakeholders' requirements are ignored or misinterpreted. This leads to misaligned goals, resource misallocation, or data loss. While open source tools may present risks without proper governance, those risks are secondary to stakeholder misalignment, including mixed data types can be managed through modular workflows. Over-documentation, while inefficient, is not inherently harmful. Question 4. Through the lens of conversion quality assurance, which of the following would best help Istasanaka detect issues early in a digital record conversion process for a national archive? A. Skipping test batches to reduce conversion cycle time. B. Conducting user acceptance testing post-conversion only. C. Implementing unit and integration testing throughout the workflow. D. Randomly sampling files after completion for inspection. Answer. Correct answer, C. Implementing unit and integration testing throughout the workflow. Explanation. ISO 13008, 2021 Clause 9.3 and 9.4 highlight the importance of progressive testing, especially unit testing for individual components and integration testing to ensure interoperability between modules. This allows for early error detection, reducing rollback costs and maintaining trust in records. User acceptance testing, critical but insufficient on its own. Random file sampling lacks the systematic rigor needed for compliance in public sector contexts. Question 5. When evaluating the merits of migration versus conversion for handling obsolete engineering records stored in SGML format, which principle should guide the decision? A. Preference for modern file formats regardless of functional requirements. B. Legal admissibility of records in a court of law. C. Size of the database and hardware limitations. D. Staff preference for more user-friendly formats. Answer. Correct answer. B. Legal admissibility of records in a court of law. Explanation. Clause 6.1.3 of ISO 13008. 2021 emphasizes that digital record conversions must preserve legal value and evidential weight. Admissibility depends on maintaining integrity, metadata, and structure. Choosing modern formats for convenience, AD, can compromise authenticity, while hardware capacity matters, C is second. Concern to the legal reliability and compliance of converted records, particularly in regulated domains like engineering or construction. Question 6. In a modern context of quality assurance, how can IS Rodriguez ensure that the digital records migrated from legacy library catalog system meet future audit requirements? A. Retaining original backup tapes in off-site storage. B. Applying automated metadata normalization during migration. C. Ensuring detailed documentation of each quality assurance activity. D. Capturing thumbnail previews of all scanned images. Answer. Correct answer. C. Ensuring detailed documentation of each quality assurance activity. Explanation. Clause 9.5 of ISO 13008. 2021 stipulates thorough documentation of all CAR activities to support post-project auditing and regulatory review. Backup serve disaster recovery but not audit traceability. Automated metadata normalization. B. Helps structurally but must be monitored. Thumbnails. D. Aid usability but have no bearing on quality verification. Documenting test results, error logs, correction actions, and approvals is essential for accountability. Question 7. What would happen if a digital migration project ignored pre-migration validation of source record metadata structures? A. The project would complete faster due to fewer checks. B. Records would lose only non-essential contextual information. C. Records might fail to comply with authenticity requirements. D. Legacy system performance would improve temporarily. Answer. Correct answer. C. Records might fail to comply with authenticity requirements. Explanation. ISO 13008. 2021 Clause 7.2.1 requires metadata analysis and validation as a key step before migration. This ensures that essential metadata such as provenance, access rights, and creation details are preserved. Failure to validate leads to loss of contextual and legal trustworthiness, undermining the very purpose of compliant migration process. Time-saving A is irrelevant if records lose evidentiary value. Legacy system performance. D is unaffected. Losing non-essential context. B is subjective and often mistaken assumption. Question 8. In terms of lifecycle considerations, what challenge would ISTA-Koenig likely face when migrating digital records that are still active and under frequent revision? A. Difficulty in preserving encryption keys across platforms. B. Managing version control and ensuring synchronization. C. Limitations in handling proprietary data containers. D. Reduced file resolution due to compression. Answer. Correct answer. B. Managing version control and ensuring synchronization. Explanation. ISO 13008. 2021 Clause 6.3 stresses that records undergoing active use must retain version control and temporal integrity during migration. If migration happens while documents are revised, multiple versions may overlap, creating discrepancies or loss. Encryption A in proprietary formats. C. Matter, but secondary concerns for live records. Compression D isn't relevant unless data is transformed unnecessarily. Question 9. By evaluating post-migration validation techniques, which method would best demonstrate conformity with ISO 13008, 2021's requirement for record usability? A. Counting the number of successfully migrated files. B. Comparing randomly selected files for metadata accuracy. C. Running test retrieval scenarios simulating user queries. D. Verifying that file names have not changed. Answer. Correct answer. C. Running test retrieval scenarios simulating user queries. Explanation. Clause 8.2 of ISO 13008. 2021 recommends verifying usability through simulation of end-user operations like search, access, and export. This ensures that records serve their intended business function. File counts A show volume, not quality. Random metadata checks B are useful but not sufficient. Names D may change as long as reference integrity is maintained. Only simulated access confirms real-world usability. Question 10. Based on the information available, which elements should be prioritized in a needs assessment when designing a digital conversion strategy for a healthcare records archive? A. Visual clarity of scanned documents. B. Staff availability for weekend work. C. Sensitivity and classification of records under privacy laws. D. Age of the physical documents to be scanned. Answer. Correct answer. C. Sensitivity and classification of records under privacy laws. Explanation. ISO 13008. 2021 Clause 5.2 mandates that needs assessments must identify regulatory constraints, particularly for sensitive data like medical records protected by privacy laws, e.g. HIPAA DDR. Visual clarity A is a secondary technical goal, staff availability. B is operational, strategic. Age of documents. D affects fragility but not compliance priorities. Classifying data accurately ensures compliance, ethical handling, and long-term trust. Question 11. Taking into account the challenges faced by Esther Singh, who is tasked with converting a vast collection of legacy digital records stored in multiple incompatible formats, what should be his primary focus to ensure compliance with ISO 13008, 2021 during the conversion process? A. Converting all files into a single, universal file format regardless of original structure. B. Preserving original metadata and validating conversion against predefined quality metrics. C. Maximizing compression to reduce storage costs post-conversion. D. Prioritizing speed of conversion over thorough quality control. Answer. Correct answer. B. Preserving original metadata and validating conversion against predefined quality metrics. Explanation. ISO 13008. 2021 emphasizes that conversion must preserve the authenticity, integrity, and usability of records, especially metadata critical for provenance and context. Clause 6.2. Simply converting to a universal format without validating metadata risks loss of evident value. Compression C might reduce file quality and metadata integrity, which violates the standard. Speed D cannot override strict quality and compliance requirements as per Clause 9 on quality assurance. Question 12. Given the circumstances of a government agency migrating digital tax records to a new system, which of the following actions aligns best with mitigating risks related to data loss during migration? A. Conducting a risk assessment and establishing rollback procedures before migration. B. Performing a full system shutdown during migration to avoid concurrent access. C. Limiting migration to low-priority records only. D. Delegating migration tasks solely to external vendors without internal oversight. Answer. Correct answer. A. Conducting a risk assessment and establishing rollback procedures before migration. Explanation. Clause 5.4 and 8.3 of ISO 13008. 2021 require thorough risk assessment and the creation of rollback plans to mitigate loss or corruption during migration. Full shutdowns B might not always be feasible or necessary. Limiting migration to low priority records. C doesn't address the risks. Sole reliance on vendors without oversight. D compromises governance and accountability, violating Clause 5.3 on stakeholder roles. Question 13. From the perspective of quality management, what is the most effective way for IS Blake to ensure that the digital records converted from the university's research database remain reliable and authentic over time? A. Conducting only final audit after full conversion is completed. B. Applying continuous quality control and error correction throughout conversion. C. Encrypting all records immediately after conversion. D. Archiving records without metadata to simplify storage. Answer. Correct answer. B. Applying continuous quality control and error correction throughout conversion. Explanation. ISO 13008-2021 requires continuous quality control procedures during the entire conversion process to detect and correct errors early, clauses 9.2 and 9.4. A single final audit. A. Risks late detection of errors. Encryption. C. Is important for security but unrelated to authenticity or integrity during conversion. Archiving without metadata. D. Violates clause 6.2, which mandates metadata capture for authenticity and usability. Question 14. Considering the evidence from a recent project, which of the following migration approaches would be most appropriate for handling high-volume financial digital records while maintaining compliance with ISO 13008-2021? A. Batch migration with validation checkpoints and incremental backups. B. Full migration in a single continuous run without interruption. C. Selective migration of only critical records to save costs. D. Migration without metadata preservation to accelerate processing. Answer. Correct answer. A. Batch migration with validation checkpoints and incremental backups. Explanation. Clause 7.4.3 recommends batch processing with frequent validation and backup steps to ensure data integrity and allow recovery if issues arise. Continuous uninterrupted migration. B. Is risky because errors may propagate unnoticed. Selective migration. C. May omit legally significant records, violating completeness. Ignoring method. Preservation. D. Contradicts core principles of record authenticity in clause 6.2. Question 15. When faced with the task of migrating medical digital records, which of the following considerations is critical to comply with both ISO 13008-2021 and applicable healthcare privacy laws? A. Align all stakeholders for access to the migration process. B. Ensuring sensitive data encryption and audit trails for access and changes. C. Removing all metadata to anonymize records before migration. D. Migrating data during off-peak hours to reduce system load. Answer. Correct answer. B. Ensuring sensitive data encryption and audit trails for access and changes. Explanation. ISO 13008-2021 clause 5.4 and healthcare regulations e.g. HIPAA EDA require data privacy safeguards such as encryption and audit trails to protect sensitive information and maintain accountability during migration. Full stakeholder access. A. May violate confidentiality. Removing metadata. C. Risks loss of provenance and integrity conflicting with ISO 13008 requirements. Timing migration for load reduction. D. Is operational but secondary to compliance. Question 16. In terms of establishing the project scope for digital records migration, what key factors should ISTICHEN prioritize to align with ISO 13008-2021 requirements? A. Budget constraints over technical capabilities. B. Clear definition of record types, volumes, and compliance objectives. C. Outsourcing all technical work without defining scope. D. Focusing solely on the newest digital records to simplify the project. Answer. Correct answer. B. Clear definition of record types, volumes, and compliance objectives. Explanation. Clause 5.1 and 5.2 of ISO 13008-2021 stress that project scope must clearly define the types of records, volume, and regulatory requirements to ensure effective planning and compliance. Budget. A. Is important but subordinate to scope clarity. Outsourcing without defined scope. C. Misalignment and non-compliance. Ignoring older records. D. Violates the principle of managing records through their full life cycle. Question 17. When analyzing the migration of digital records that include both text documents and multimedia files, what should ISO O'Connor focus on to adhere to ISO 13008-2021 standards? A. Prioritizing text documents due to ease of migration. B. Ensuring format-specific handling and preservation of associated metadata for all file types. C. Converting multimedia files into text transcripts only. D. Storing multimedia files separately without metadata linkage. Answer. Correct answer. B. Ensuring format-specific handling and preservation of associated metadata for all file types. Explanation. ISO 13008. 2021 Clause 7.3 requires that different digital formats be handled with appropriate migration strategies that preserve format-specific characteristics and metadata essential for authenticity and usability. Prioritizing only text or converting multimedia text transcripts. C. Risks loss of original record value. Separating files from metadata. D. Breaks linkage needed for provenance and context. Question 18. Upon closer examination, what is the best method for verifying post-migration success in a scenario where an organization migrates large volumes of digital records to a new enterprise content management system? A. Verifying successful file transfer counts only. B. Comprehensive validation of metadata integrity, file accessibility, and audit logs. C. Confirmation from the department that systems are operational. D. User feedback collected 6 months post-migration. Answer. Correct answer. B. Comprehensive validation of metadata integrity, file accessibility, and audit logs. Explanation. ISO 13008. 2021 Clause 8.2 demands multifaceted validation to confirm records remain authentic, accessible, and traceable after migration. Simply counting files or its system status C doesn't guarantee compliance or usability. Delayed user feedback D is helpful but sufficient for formal validation. Audit logs and metadata verification ensure legal and operational requirements are met. Question 19. For the purpose of handling records with legal hold status, what must ISTA Johnson ensure during the digital conversion or migration process? A. Prioritize conversion of records without holds to expedite the project. B. Exclude legal hold records from conversion until after project completion. C. Maintain the legal hold status metadata and ensure non-alteration of these records. D. Convert legal hold records to simplified formats to reduce size. Answer. Correct answer. C. Maintain the legal hold status metadata and ensure non-alteration of these records. Explanation. ISO 13008. 2021 Clause 6.2 and legal frameworks require that records under legal hold maintain their status and metadata integrity throughout any migration or conversion process. Altering or delaying their handling risks legal non-compliance and potential sanctions. Prioritizing or excluding holds B. Violates legal preservation obligations. Simplification. D. Could alter evidentiary value. Question 20. Which risk assessment approach aligns with ISO 13008, 2021 when ISTA Alvarez is planning the migration of confidential corporate records? A. Ignoring minor risks to streamline project delivery. B. Conducting a comprehensive risk analysis covering technical, legal, and operational factors with mitigation strategies. C. Delegating risk assessment exclusively to the vendor. D. Focusing risk analysis only on external threats like hacking. Answer. Correct answer. B. Conducting a comprehensive risk analysis covering technical, legal, and operational factors with mitigation strategies. Explanation. Clause 5. Point 4 of ISO 13008. 2021 emphasizes holistic risk management, including all internal and external factors affecting digital records integrity, legal compliance, and usability. Ignoring minor risks, or focusing only on external threats, is incomplete and dangerous. Delegating without internal governance, C. Undermines accountability and control. Question 21. In the absence of clear stakeholder roles during a digital records migration project, what consequence is most likely to occur according to ISO 13008? 2021 principles. A. Enhanced agility and decision-making. B. Increased risk of incomplete or inconsistent record handling. C. Reduced operational costs due to fewer personnel involved. D. Faster migration process with fewer delays. Answer. Correct answer. B. Increased risk of incomplete or inconsistent record handling. Explanation. ISO 13008. 2021 Clause 5. 6.3 stresses the importance of defining stakeholder roles and responsibilities to ensure governance and compliance throughout conversion migration. Without clarity, accountability lapses lead to inconsistent application of standards, incomplete data transfer, and loss of record authenticity. Agility and speed D are often sacrificed by poor role definition. Reduced costs C are outweighed by increased risks and potential legal consequences. Question 22. Considering the evidence, why is metadata capture and management critical during digital record conversion processes? A. Metadata increases the file size, making files easier to locate. B. Metadata supports preservation of record authenticity, context, and usability. C. Metadata can be recreated easily after conversion if lost. D. Metadata allows unlimited user access during conversion. Answer. Correct answer. B. Metadata supports preservation of record authenticity, context, and usability. Explanation. ISO 13008 2021 Clause 6.2 underscores that metadata is essential for documenting provenance, authenticity, and context. It ensures records remain reliable and legally admissible after conversion. Metadata cannot be simply recreated, C, without risking loss of critical information. Increasing file size A is a technical side effect, not a purpose. Metadata management does not imply uncontrolled access. D. Question 23. In terms of data privacy planning for a conversion project involving personal data, what must ISO Patel ensure to meet ISO 13008 2021 and legal obligations? A. All personal data must be removed before conversion to prevent breaches. B. Privacy impact assessments must be integrated into the project plan. C. Data encryption is optional if access is limited to its staff. D. Metadata is not necessary for anonymized records. Answer. Correct answer. B. Privacy impact assessments must be integrated into the project plan. Explanation. ISO 13008 2021 Clause 5.4 requires that data privacy and security planning include formal privacy impact assessments peers, especially for personal or sensitive data, to identify and mitigate risks before conversion migration. Removing data A is not feasible as it compromises completeness. Encryption C is generally mandatory and metadata remains crucial. D even for anonymized records to support provenance. Question 24. The fundamental question is, what is the key difference between conversion and migration in the context of ISO 13008 2021? A. Conversion changes the format of the digital records. Migration moves records without altering format. B. Conversion applies only to physical records. Migration applies only to digital records. C. Conversion involves deletion of obsolete records. Migration archives all records. D. Conversion is a temporary process. Migration is permanent. Answer. Correct answer A. Conversion changes the format of the digital records. Migration moves records without altering format. Explanation. ISO 13008 2021 defines conversion as the process of transforming digital records into a different format, while migration refers to transferring records to a new system without changing their format. Clause 3. Conversion involves format alteration, potentially impacting metadata structure, requiring stringent quality controls. Both processes deal with digital records, not physical. B. Deletion and archiving. C. Are lifecycle management activities outside the core definitions. Neither is necessarily temporary or permanent. D. Question 25. From a practical standpoint, what is the main risk of skipping pre-migration testing in a complex digital migration project? A. Reduced costs in the short term. B. Introduction of undetected errors that may corrupt records irreversibly. C. Higher user satisfaction due to faster project delivery. D. Greater flexibility in the migration timeline. Answer. Correct answer B. Introduction of undetected errors that may corrupt records irreversibly. Explanation. ISO 13008 2021 Clause 8.1 mandates pre-migration testing to detect potential issues in advance, avoiding the propagation of errors or corruption during actual migration. Short-term cost savings or timeline flexibility do not outweigh the risk of record loss or integrity compromise. User satisfaction is likely diminished if errors arise post-migration. Question 26. Based on the information, which migration strategy best addresses handling legacy systems that use obsolete file formats? A. Direct migration of legacy files to the new system without format conversion. B. Conversion of legacy formats into modern, sustainable formats prior to migration. C. Archiving legacy files without any migration or conversion. D. Discarding legacy files after manual review to save space. Answer. Correct answer. B. Conversion of legacy formats into modern, sustainable formats prior to migration. Explanation. ISO 13008, 2021 Clause 7.3 recommends conversion of obsolete formats into current, supported formats to ensure ongoing accessibility and usability. Direct migration without conversion A. Risks incompatibility. Archiving without migration C. May preserve but limit usability. Discarding records D. Breaches compliance and retention policies, risking legal penalties. Question 27. How might one explain the importance of resource allocation, human, financial, technological, in the success of digital records conversion and migration projects? A. Adequate resources ensure thorough planning, quality assurance, and risk mitigation. B. Excess resources always lead to project failure due to complexity. C. Minimal resource allocation reduces overhead costs and speeds completion. D. Resource allocation is unrelated to compliance with ISO 13008, 2021. Answer. Correct answer A. Adequate resources ensure thorough planning, quality assurance, and risk mitigation. Explanation. Clause 5.5 of ISO 13008, 2021 emphasizes that effective resource allocation is critical to meet compliance, maintain quality, and manage risks. Under-resourcing leads to errors, non-compliance, and project failure. Over-resourcing is rarely detrimental if managed properly. Compliance requires deliberate resource planning to execute standards effectively. Question 20. Within the framework of digital records lifecycle, which step is most vulnerable to data loss or corruption if not properly managed during conversion or migration? A. Data extraction from source systems. B. File naming convention standardization. C. User acceptance testing after migration. D. Final project documentation. Answer. Correct answer A. Data extraction from source systems. Explanation. ISO 13008, 2021 Clause 7.2 describes source record analysis and preparation, including data extraction, as a critical step where improper handling can cause irreversible data loss or corruption. File naming, B. Testing, C. And documentation, D. Are important but downstream processes that rely on sound data extraction. Errors at extraction propagate through the lifecycle. Question 29. While examining the role of legal and regulatory compliance in digital records migration, which principle is most crucial according to ISO 13008, 2021? A. Ensuring records can be edited freely after migration. B. Maintaining the evidential integrity and traceability of records. C. Compressing records to meet storage regulations. D. Prioritizing operational speed over compliance. Answer. Correct answer. B. Maintaining the evidential integrity and traceability of records. Explanation. ISO 13008, 2021 Clause 5.4 and Clause 6 emphasize that legal compliance centers on preserving the evidential value of digital records, including traceability through metadata and audit trails. Records should not be editable in a way that compromises their authenticity. A. Compression C. And speed D. Secondary to legal and regulatory adherence. Question 30. The general consensus is that post-migration verification is critical. Which of the following best describes a comprehensive post-migration verification approach? A. Automated comparison of file sizes only. B. Verifying file integrity, metadata consistency, accessibility, and functionality. C. Relying on vendor-provided migration reports without internal validation. D. Postponing verification until end-user complaints are received. Answer. Correct answer. B. Verifying file integrity, metadata consistency, accessibility, and functionality. Explanation. Clause 8.2 of ISO 13008. 2021 calls for thorough post-migration verification encompassing integrity checks, e.g. hash values, metadata audit, accessibility testing, and functionality validation to ensure compliance and usability. File size comparison A is insufficient. Blind on vendors, C. Risks gaps. Reactive verification. D. Undermines proactive quality management.